Hey everyone, I hope you're all doing well. As for me, I'm doing good, honestly. Just very busy lately. I've been juggling a lot of random things, working on renders, testing stuff, fixing tiny details. You know how it goes. One thing leads to another, and suddenly the whole day is gone. At some point, I decided to dedicate the entire day to working on just one pose pack. Don't ask me why. I honestly don't know what possessed me to do that. I think I just thought the idea was cool, and once I get something like that in my head, I kind of refuse to let it go. So yeah, one pack, one day, full focus. Now, the saddest part of this whole process, and I mean truly tragic, was trying to find the CC I needed. Specifically accessories. I wanted fruits. Simple, right? Apparently not. There are almost no accessories for poses that involve fruit. I searched everywhere. I checked my folders, I browsed sites, I went through old downloads, and I even asked ChatGPT if it could magically find a link for me or something. Spoiler alert, nope. Nothing. Absolutely nothing useful. So after wasting way too much time on that, I gave up and decided to improvise. Instead of fruit, I used juice cans. Not exactly what I originally imagined, but honestly, it kind of works. I think the poses still ended up looking pretty cohesive, even if they're a bit similar to each other. And yeah, some of them are similar. That was intentional. I really put a lot of effort into these poses. Like, genuinely. The whole pack took me about an hour just for the posing part alone, which is actually pretty long for me. Usually I work faster, but this time I was being extra careful with angles, hands, weight balance, and small details that most people probably won't even consciously notice. But I notice them, and that's what matters. I also tried to work a little smarter, not harder. I used some tricks to speed things up, like copying parts of older poses and adjusting them instead of starting from scratch every single time. Especially since the poses are similar but slightly different, small changes in posture, arm placement, head tilt, things like that. It saves time, but it still takes effort to make sure everything looks natural and not repetitive. I'm not gonna lie. I kind of doubt this video will be super interesting for most of you. I mostly just talk nonsense, ramble about my process, and show what I'm working on. There's nothing super educational here. Nothing groundbreaking, nothing you have to learn from this. I mainly wanted to show my progress and give a little behind-the-scenes look at how I create poses. Also, just in case I haven't mentioned it clearly before, I'm currently open for pose commissions. If that's something you're interested in, you can find all the information on my Patreon or on my Instagram. I'll leave the links in the description so you can check everything out whenever you want. I know this video is kind of long, but at the same time, there are 9 poses in this pack. Not 3, not 4, 9. And I didn't want to rush through everything just to make a super fast video where nothing is actually visible. I want you to see how I work, how things come together, how I tweak and adjust, instead of just flashing the final result for 2 seconds. Plus, making videos too fast genuinely hurts my eyes. I'm not even joking. So I'm trying to slow things down, even if that means the video ends up longer than usual. I'd rather overdo it than rush through everything and miss the details. I'm also not really sure if I should keep doing these kinds of videos, like the ones where I just create poses and talk while doing it. I enjoy making them, but I don't know if they're actually interesting for you. So honestly, I'd really appreciate it if you let me know in the comments whether this is something you like watching or not. That would help me a lot, because sometimes it's hard to tell what works and what doesn't from my side. And I swear, I will do tutorials too. Sooner or later. I'm not abandoning that idea, I promise. It's just that tutorials take so much more time than people might think. They're really tiring to make. Planning what to say, making sure everything makes sense, recording, re-recording, editing. One tutorial video easily takes me at least a full week to finish. And that's not even counting all the editing work, adding voice, fixing audio, cutting things out. It's a lot. Sometimes I also just feel really down. Like mentally. there are days when I can't focus on anything at all. And I'm being completely honest here. I didn't create poses for almost a whole week recently. I just couldn't. It wasn't because I didn't want to, but because my brain just refused to cooperate. And I already had a few poses made, so it felt even worse, like I was stuck in this weird pause. I really hate when that happens, when I sit the whole day doing absolutely nothing productive. Not creating, not improving, not even experimenting. Just staring at the screen while my brain feels completely frozen. It's frustrating, and honestly, kind of exhausting, in a different way than actually working. Do you remember that video where I gave 5 tips on how to create poses? I've been thinking about that one a lot. Maybe I should do more videos like that. I feel like it could actually be fun, and also easier for me to manage. Those kinds of videos would be faster to make because it's more about explaining than fully showing every single step. Just simple explanations, maybe a few examples, nothing too complicated. I feel like that kind of content could be helpful without completely draining me. And it would still be about poses, which is what I enjoyed doing the most anyway. I'm also thinking about making new videos about sculpting, especially because I've started using certain brushes way more often lately. And I think it could be interesting to show that process and explain why I use them. I'd probably do that in Blender 4.1, simply because the brush placement there is way more comfortable for me compared to the newer versions. Blender 4.1 is honestly my favorite version. I do almost everything there. It just feels right to me. Even some newer files actually work surprisingly well in that version. I've tested using files from newer Blender versions, and most of the time, everything still runs fine. So I don't really feel the need to switch when 4.1 already does exactly what I need. Especially knowing that I don't really use jewelry that's specifically made for Blender users. Most of the time, those files are just way too heavy. Like, imagine this. My Sims with clothes usually end up being around 100 megabytes, maybe 200 megabytes max if it's something more detailed. That's already a lot. Now imagine doing a collaboration, for example, with 3 other people, and each of their Sims is 400 megabytes, or even more, and that's not even counting the scene itself. At that point, everything just starts adding up really fast. The scene, the lighting, the textures, the hair, the accessories, it becomes heavy very quickly. And sometimes, with all of that combined, I literally can't render at all. My video RAM just isn't as big as I'd like it to be. And the worst part is, I can't really change it. It's a laptop. You know how it is. It's not like regular RAM where you can just upgrade it easily. So I constantly have to think about optimization, file sizes, and what I can or can't afford to add to a scene. That's also why I'm really careful with what CC I use and what I avoid. Some things look amazing, but they're just not realistic for my setup. I'd rather keep things lighter and actually be able to work instead of pushing everything to the limit and ending up unable to render anything at all. By the way, I'm actually really curious. What do you all love doing the most in Blender? Do you mainly do renders for roleplay? Do you create CC? Build scenes? Or maybe you just mess around and experiment with random things to see what happens? Let me know in the comments. Seriously, I would love to read what everyone is into. For me personally, I really love creating stories with my Sims, like full-on storytelling. But that takes so much time and effort, which is why I don't do it very often. It's not just about taking a pretty picture for me. I don't like doing photos without putting real effort into them. Sometimes I even end up redoing the same scene again and again because something doesn't feel right. And honestly, that can completely kill my motivation. It's draining. You spend hours on something, then you change it, then you redo it, and at some point, you're just exhausted. But after resting for a bit, I usually come back to it. And then it feels fun again. That's kind of how it always goes for me. Burn out a little, rest, then come back with fresh eyes. Recently, I also started resculpting my old Sims, fixing small things like nails, arms, proportions, tiny details that I didn't pay much attention to before. It's actually really satisfying to look at older work and improve it with everything I've learned since then. And of course, poses. Poses are still my main thing. That's what I focus on the most, and that's also what earns me a little bit of money. So even when I feel unmotivated or tired, I usually try to at least do something related to poses, because that's the core of what I do. I think a lot of this just comes down to how I work as a person. I don't really create things just to create them. I need a reason, even if it's a small one. A mood, a story, a feeling, something. And when that's not there, everything feels harder than it should. Those limits I talked about, file sizes, VRAM, working on a laptop, they're annoying, but they're also something I've learned to work around over time. I've kind of accepted that I can't just throw everything into a scene and hope for the best. I have to think ahead. What actually matters here? What can I skip? What won't even be noticeable in the final render? And yeah, sometimes that's frustrating, especially when I see other people using super heavy scenes or tons of accessories without any issues. But at the same time, it's forced me to be more intentional with what I use. I focus more on poses, body language, expressions, things that don't rely on heavy assets but still make a big difference. When I stop creating for a bit, it usually looks like I'm just doing nothing. But in reality, my brain is probably just overloaded. I've learned that forcing myself to work in those moments doesn't really help. It just makes me hate the process. So I step back, even if I don't like it, and then eventually the motivation comes back on its own. And when it does, I usually come back with a clearer idea of what I want to do next. Sometimes it's fixing old Sims, sometimes it's trying new poses, sometimes it's just experimenting without any pressure. That part, experimenting, is actually really important for me, even if nothing usable comes out of it right away. I think that's also why poses stayed my main focus. They're flexible. I can tell a story with them or keep them simple. I can work fast or slow depending on how I feel. And since that's also the part that brings in a bit of income, it gives me some structure without completely killing my creativity. So yeah, I'm still figuring things out. What kind of videos I want to make, how often, how detailed, how personal. I don't want to promise anything unrealistic, but I do want to keep sharing the process, the good days and the messy ones too. So yeah, these are just some thoughts I wanted to share. I'm still figuring things out, still experimenting, still trying to find the balance between creating, teaching, and not completely burning myself out. Let me know what you think about the videos, the tutorials, the tips, all of it. Your feedback genuinely helps more than you probably realize. Thanks for watching, and see you on the next video. Bye!